This video is about for loops in Python, so it's a small introduction to for loops. Okay, so what do I mean by a for loop? A loop, to start off with, is just something in programming that means that we would repeat a task. They're used an awful lot in programming, and we use them in everyday life all the time. If you were washing dishes, for instance, and you had a pile of plates, you would pick up the first plate, you would put it in the water, you would clean it, put it on the rack, and you would pick up the next plate, and for all of the plates that were there, you would do the same thing until the pile of plates had been washed. If you were folding clothes, it would be the same thing for the pile of clothes. You would pick up the first item, fold it, put it down, and continue to do it. The same thing, repeating the same task again and again until you had gone through all of the items that were there. So we do similar things in programming. Sometimes we might want to do things again and again and again. The other examples I've got here are if you were setting a table. If you were setting a table, there'd be a number of places available in the table. So you would get a plate, put it down, and you would get cutlery and put it down for every place in the table. If you were at a party and you were dancing to a song, you would continue to dance for the length of the song. So we do it all the time. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we have that facility when we code in Python. Okay, a basic algorithm for this would be a problem to print the numbers from 0 to 9. And then there's our algorithm for number equals 0 to 9, print number, end 4. So we could have 9 bits, 9 lines of code printing out 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or we can write it in 3 lines of code. It's a lot shorter and it does the count for us. So we'll have a look at how we go about doing that. So to start with, I've got my name, the date, and then what the program is about. So I've got this keyword for. So for would start for loop. For x. X is the thing that the machine uses to keep count. So it will start off with a start value and it will continue to count until it's counted the number of times it's given inside range here. So range at the moment is just sitting at 10. So we've got for x in range 10, so it can do it 10 times. So the way that it counts, the way that it starts counting is it'll count from 0. So x initially has the value of 0 and it will print out the value of x in the for loop is 0. Comes back up, adds 1 to x, it becomes 1. It's still less than doing it 10 times, and it'll continue to do it and loop round and round and round until it gets to the point that it has done it 10 times. Once it's done it 10 times, it will come back up, increments x again, and then checks to see if it's in the range. It's not, so we would jump out of the for loop. Also, you'll notice, much like the if, anything to do with the for loop has to be indented. So any commands here have to be indented and all come underneath each other. This is so Python knows what is actually to be done inside this for loop. Because if you put all these commands all over the place, it wouldn't understand what was happening. So it has to be indented. Okay. So it starts counting at 0 and goes all the way up to 9. And that's it, done it 10 times. And there we go. We have got the output from the command. Because the for loop goes from a start value to an end value, what we can do is we can use it for different things. So we could use it for a times table, for instance. So in this example here, again I started it the same way, got the comments, got my name, got the date, what the actual program is doing, and then I have got table. So table is a variable and I'm going to give it the value that's on this side, and we have this keyword input. So what input does is it allows you to type in, and whatever you type in will be stored inside table. Now I've got int in front of that, so I'm automatically casting it as an integer, so I'm making it a whole number by doing this, stored inside table. And then we have for x in range 12, so it does this 12 times, starts at 0 and then continues up, does it 12 times, print, and we have x asterisk, so the asterisk is multiplication, so x times table. So it will print out the times table for you. What we can also do is we can do the times table for loop with ranges. So we can make it start at a set value and finish at a set value. To do that, we have range here. And instead of range just with one number, we have got range 1, 11. So it starts at 1 and it would finish at 11. So another example of this one is we have got table again. So we're using that keyword input, and input lets us input something in to Python. And I have int in front of it, so I'm casting it as soon as it's coming in. And I'm making it equal to table. So whatever the person types in, it's going to be made an integer and stored inside table. And then I have for x in range, starting at 1, going all the way up to 11, it will print out x times table. So it starts at 1 times whatever the user has entered, and then it will go round again. X is incremented by 1, it comes down, and it'll be 2 times whatever table the person has entered, and it keeps going on until it reaches the end point 11. Sometimes when we're using a for loop, we might want to get out of the loop early. So if we're using a for loop, we might have other commands inside it that maybe force us to want to come out of the loop early. So an example would be, next example I'm going to have a look at, an example would be if the user was allowed to guess or to put in their password. Normally if you put a password into the system, it's 3 strikes and you're out. So what we can do is we could use a for loop to do this. So we could ask the user to enter their password, allow them to try it 3 times. If they don't get it right after the 3 times, then that's it. They just don't get into the system. If they do get it right, we'll want to break out of the loop and let them in. Okay, so we'll have a look and see how this works in the next slide. So again, I'm starting it the same way. I've got my name, the date, and what this particular bit of code is about. So I'm starting off with this keyword for. So for x in range 3, so this is where I'm setting up the maximum number of attempts. So you can give 3 attempts at getting this password. Okay, and you'll see that pwd is the first command, but if you look all the way down, you see that quite a lot of these commands all follow each other. So anything that's indented is within this for loop. Okay, and outside the for loop is that last print there. So we'll go back up to for x in range 3. So we start at 0, pwd equals, and we've got the keyword input. So whatever the user types in is going to get stuck inside pwd. So we're asking please enter your password. Then I've got the if statement. So if password, that's if not equal to, and then I've got my name. So if it's not equal to Violet, I'm going to print out incorrect password attempt. And then I've got x plus 1. X plus 1 just so that it displays a 1 and not a 0 because it starts to count from 0. So if it's incorrect, that's what will happen. If the password is Violet, it will come down here to the else. It will print out welcome to the site, and then we have break. So break will break us out of the loop, automatically come out, and then it will just print out you have now exited the program, goodbye. The reason we have the break in to get out of the loop is if we didn't, it would just come back round again and ask the user to enter the password, which we don't want, because if they've got it right, if you keep asking, they'll just change it all the time. So using break gets us out of the loop. If the password is not correct, it will print out incorrect password attempt, and then it goes back up to the for. X is incremented by 1, so x becomes 1, and then it will ask for the password again. It stores it and it checks to see if it's correct. If it's not correct, it will write out incorrect password attempt, and this time it's x plus 1, so it would be 2 because it starts to count from 0. So incorrect password attempt 2. If it was correct, it would just welcome to the site and break out the loop. So if it's not correct, we go back round again. X is incremented again by 1, so x becomes 2. So we're asking again for the password, and we're taking in whatever the user has typed and storing it inside pwd. So then I've got if pwd is not equal to Violet. So if it's not equal to Violet, it will print out incorrect password attempt x plus 1. So x is 2 at the moment, plus 1 would be 3. If that's the case, it comes down, goes back up to the top of the for loop, increments x by 1 and checks the value of x against the range. So it knows then that it's done this particular loop 3 times, so it won't do it anymore. So it just comes right the way down and it prints out you've now exited the program, goodbye. So it allows the user 3 attempts at this. And we have got the if inside of for to check to see if the attempts are correct. We can also do this with the random number game that we've seen before. Previously with the random number game, what we done was we just let them guess the number once. If it didn't work, then that was it. They didn't get another chance to actually guess the number. But what we can do here is we can use one of these Python modules. So we can use add-on bits of code that someone else has written, and we can import them into our program. And by doing that and using the for loop, what we can do is give a person a number of attempts at trying to guess the magic number. So it's similar to the other example I showed you there, in that the person gets 3 attempts to try and guess the magic number. Okay, so it's the same code we used before for generating a random number, but go through it. I've got the author, the dates, and what is actually happening here. And then we've got import random. So what that does is it will import from the predefined Python library this thing called random, and what random does is it will give a whole series of different available functions that you can use to generate random numbers. So the one that I want is randint, so that'll generate a random integer. So I'm saying magic equals random, so we're telling it to use the random code we've imported, then dot randint, so we're pulling in random and we're using a function inside there called randint. We're giving it a range, so we're starting at 1 and going up to 10. So we've generated a random number, and the random number is stored inside magic. And then we've got the for loop. So again, it's 3 attempts to try and guess this magic number. So for x in range 3, then we have guess equals, and we'll get the keyword input. So whatever the person inputs at this point, we'll take it and we'll store it inside guess. But what we do beforehand is we make it an integer, we're casting it as we bring it in. So whatever number, whole number, is entered, it's stored inside guess. And then we have our if statement. If guess equals magic, we write out, well done, you guessed the magic number. And then we have break. If they've guessed the magic number, there's no point in them trying to guess it again and again when they've already got it right. So we break out of the loop. So that'll break us out of the loop. If the magic number is not the same as the guess, we come down to the else, and it says you have used x plus 1 guesses. So it'll write out 1, you have used 1 guess. Come back round, and it will ask them to enter another magic number. So they enter the magic number, we read it in through input, and we automatically cast it using int, stored inside guess. If guess is equal to the magic number, we'll print out you've guessed the magic number, and we break out of the loop, and we would write out end of program. If it's not correct, we go down to else, and we print out you have used x plus 1 guesses. So we're now on 2 guesses. And come back round up here to the for. Increments x by 1, so x becomes 2. And then again, we're asking the user, enter your guess between 1 and 10. Input is the thing that allows us to bring it in. And then we're automatically making it a whole number. We're casting it with the int there and storing it inside guess. Then we have if guess is equal to magic. We'll print out you have guessed the magic number and break out of the loop. If it's not, it will write out you have used x plus 1, so that's 2 plus 1, which is 3 guesses. So it'll say you have used 3 guesses, and it'll come back up to the for loop, increment x by 1, see that it is out with the range because you've already had 3 attempts, and I'll just jump back down here and say end of program. So that gives a user 3 attempts at guessing a magic number, so it's a kind of magic number game. What I would suggest you do is go through each of these exercises and try them yourself. Make sure you get them to work. If you're having problems, let me know. Message me or talk to me in class and I'll help you out. If you're okay with it, move on to the exercises that are on Canvas.